here, and sorry excuse. No new snow, so that's not a bad thing. I'm just going to make some adjustments here, so bear with me for a moment. I got to get some modulation. I was on 40 with this thing yesterday, so everything's different when you go between 40 and 80. But that should be about right at this point. A couple hundred watts of carrier, almost minus 100% modulation, and it looks like positive peaks. Yay, yay, yay. Maybe 110 or more. Who knows? I'm sure you can hear me seeing myself up on the SDR in Vermont. Anyways, good morning. Hope you're doing well. K1GMM, K2XAM.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, I can hear you. No problem, Kevin. Yeah, you too. Well, sorry to hear you're in a quandary as to what to do today. I'm kind of in a situation where I always have a lot to do, Kevin, but it comes down to the desire to actually do it. And that's the dilemma I live in all the time. Over.
That's exactly where I'm at as well. There's plenty of stuff to do. There's no shortage of stuff to do. I just don't have a whole lot of ambition to be interested in doing anything, and I end up doing things that I probably shouldn't be doing, in that I occasionally end up getting wrapped up in little projects that are kind of not really all that productive, but there's stuff that I sort of want to do that particular day, when on a weekend, like a day today or tomorrow, what I need to be doing is getting stuff put on eBay. I don't know, because I have in my head that stuff is more likely to sell on a Saturday or Sunday. Maybe that's wrong at this point. Maybe I should start putting stuff on in the middle of the week and seeing if it sells. But it all is what it is. Overall, I don't have a whole lot of ambition, and if I could get one item put on eBay, that would be a beautiful thing today. And if I could get another item put on eBay tomorrow, that would also be a beautiful thing. But generally, it's been one item a weekend, and a lot of the stuff that I'm hoping would sell isn't necessarily selling for whatever reason. So it all is what it is. So no, there's no shortage of stuff to do. There is a shortage of ambition and such and so forth like that. That's more of the situation here. And then, like, the never-ending project could be just doing a general cleanup around here, which I actually started doing yesterday. And I need to sort and organize some stuff. So if I get, at the very least, motivated enough, I rebuilt a couple of program amps for a console, and the console is sitting out here in the living room at this point, and I need to just plug those in temporarily, run them for 5 minutes, make sure that they're working correctly, and then store them and go store the console. And that will get some huge piece of stuff out of my living room. So, yeah, there's the ambition thing, or lack thereof. K1GMM, K2XAM.
K1GMM. Boy, you mentioned something there. You've been in I think we've been in the hobby, technically in the hobby, for roughly the same amount of time, right? What'd you say you got in? I got in 2015. I think you were somewhere around that area, right? 16, maybe? My memory serves me right. I don't know. But just curious, how much crap do you have, ham radio related, that you just know you're not going to use anymore? The reason why I ask is you said something about eBay. Kevin, I've got so much stuff that I have a DMR node It's a really good DMR node. It's sitting there idling. It's been idling for 6 months, and I haven't even turned the radio on to key it up. I just don't use it anymore. Don't even have the desire. I've got radios, vacuum variable caps. I've got two 25 kilovolt, 100 puff vacuum variables sitting here. Two Russian big vacuum variables. I don't. Gosh, it's all these little knickknacks, parts and pieces that I will never use, nor do I have I just don't have a desire to use them. They're all sitting here. Tons of stuff I've accumulated. I don't know. Probably used. I've probably got a couple $1,000s worth of garbage sitting here. I got to get it on eBay. And I don't know what my problem is. I keep dragging my feet. I know the stuff will sell. People want that stuff, So, yeah, I'm kind of curious if you're in the same boat or if your eBay stuff is non-radio related. K2XAM, K1GMM.
K1GMM, K2XAM. All right, so for some further clarification, I found my original logbook, and it seems that I signed on originally on September 2nd of 2018. Believe it or not, my first contact was with Glenny, N1YTN, and my second contact was Clark, N1BCG, and then a handful of others. So 2018. I actually really don't have any extraneous ham radio gear or stuff that I would consider extraneous ham radio gear. Not here at home. Here at home, there are, at this point, 4 DIY rigs. Two of the 160-80s, 2 of the 80-40s. There's a Johnson Viking 2 that was my original transmitter that Tim did all up probably 30 years ago. It was at the shop, and I asked to borrow it, and he's just said, look, don't bring that thing back, keep it. And I'm like, okay, not a problem. I do have several antenna tuners, and primarily only use 2 of those at this point. But there's not a lot of extraneous ham gear here. What there is a lot of is just, for years I was collecting vacuum tube amps and broadcast processing limiters and so forth like that. And so there's quite a bit of that stuff here. And there's quite a bit of it at the shop as well. And I'm just trying to weed stuff out. So my dad passed away about 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago this past September, and I had a 40-year collection of stuff stored at my dad's house. All of that came over here to Syracuse between home and the shop, and I probably should have left most of it there because my sister ended up paying somebody something like $3,000 to clean the place out, and they did, because I'm looking at it now, like I've made myself yet another 10 years of a full-time job of doing eBay that I don't really want to be doing at this point. And while some of it's valuable, some of it's probably not. And all of it was stuff of, yeah, I'll get to that someday. I'll get to that someday. And the thought that occurred to me was, man, I've been hanging on to some of this stuff for 40 years. If I haven't gotten to it in 40 years, maybe I'm never going to get to it. Am I going to get to it in the next 40 years? Oh, that's kind of where I'm at. Stuff does sell. I live in a relatively small house where we have 1,100 square feet here, but there's no basement and very limited space in the attic. And the garage is full too, with lots of stuff, clutter, stuff that we need to go through. I had asked my son to go through some of it before it got cold, and he wasn't real interested, so it's going to be probably up to me in the spring. 2-car garage, can only get 1 car in, have never been able to get 2 cars in. for the junk. So it is what it is. Just slowly weeding out. And, part of it with me is I have a general sense of the value of this stuff. So I'm not really willing to give... There are particular items I'm not willing to give away on eBay. There are other items that I put on eBay at super low prices, just hoping they'll go away. So I've been rambling on for 4 minutes and 20 seconds now. Tag, you're it. K1GMM, K2XAM.
Yo.
I had a feeling someone was going to pop in there. That's why I really dragged it, but I keyed up right on top of you. Okay, I'll keep this very brief and get the other station in there. That's the other issue, Kevin, that I deal with, because I went through a period where I got rid of some old audio gear from the old studio, and the stuff really wasn't worth anything. And if I figured out the amount of time it took to get that listed on eBay, package it, ship it, I really didn't. I mean, if time is money, you mentioned giving stuff away on eBay. Well, that's a lot of times that's what you're doing. So it's almost not even worth it, dude. Years and years ago, I got rid of a bunch of stuff, which I don't know if this works today, but I ran an ad in Craigslist for old studio gear and stuff like that. And this was long. This is like 15 years ago, maybe. And boy, you ought to see the people that turned out. Just ran an ad in Craigslist for old studio sound reinforcement gear, stuff like that. They came out of the woodwork, man. They came from New York State, New Hampshire. Oh yeah, clean this place out. So, and it didn't cost me anything. They came in, they looked at it, made me an offer. I said, go, take it. They put the cash in my hand, and out the door they went. I don't know how that would work today. I don't particularly like people in my house that I don't know. Because this gear is down in the shack, and I've got a lot of money invested in this place. So, anyways, good morning. The other station, K1GMM, Steve, Vermont, all yours. And then I guess over to Kevin.
All right, this is N2VO. Good morning, Kevin, and good morning, Steve. I guess I think that's what you said. And yeah, I just thought I'd stop and say hi. We're getting ready to go skiing. My wife and I are the ski hill's gonna open today, and so we're going, but we're not going to go for probably until 8:15 or so. So anyway, Kevin, go ahead and take it. This is N2VO.
Good morning, Dave. I hope you're doing well and or staying warm and all of that. And yeah, you got to get some skiing in where you can, because the forecast is going to be something like Monday and Tuesday. It's supposed to warm up and rain. So I imagine that even at the height of some of the mountaintops, that could end up being
me too, Paul.
Being kind of bad, getting the rain mixed in with everything.
It's a freaking train wreck.
We got about 5 inches of snow yesterday in the morning, and I think the whole thing was that we didn't get the snowblower out. My son did shovel a little bit. I shoveled a little bit. Still haven't really cleared the driveway out, with the thought that, well, it's going to rain on Tuesday. Probably most of it'll melt down. It didn't stop us from going anywhere, and such like that. And yeah, so back probably 10 years ago, I had a bunch of rabbit stuff and rabbits. The girl that I had been dating was into rabbits and rabbit shows, and so we had eventually split up, and I kept kind of messing around with the rabbits and so forth, and then it kind of got to be like, man, I'm sick of doing this. I'm sick of cleaning the cages.
Hey,
you had
Tim,
to do like every
go,
2 to 3 days. If you went longer than that, it ended up being a real mess. So basically every couple of days you'd have to do it. And I just got sick of it at some point. So I ended up putting 3 of the rabbits up on Craigslist, and I found you couldn't put them on for free because you'd get all these little kids that would call up and go, "Hey, I want the bunny. Can I get the bunny?" "All right, well, put your mom or dad on and let's get the bunny." And, so I had this one family, not family, but I think it was a dad and daughter come over. The daughter's like 5 years old, and met them in the Walmart parking lot because, like you, I don't really want people at my house. And
it's cold up here, Tim.
They clearly had no idea of anything about rabbits, and I'm like, "Look, you've got 2 rabbits here. You got a bucket of dough. You don't want to put them in the same cage."
Yeah, it doesn't take long, Paul.
They'll be okay for about a month in the same cage, but they're at the point where they're going to start breeding in another month, and it'll be here before you know it. So you want 2 separate little cages for them, and they didn't have any idea about straw and food or anything. So it's like, well, come on, let's go into Walmart, and this isn't where I buy this stuff, but it'll be enough to get you started and that sort of thing. So I started putting the rabbits on for like $5 a piece, and that weeded out the little kids calling, going, "Hey, I want the bunny. Can I have the bunny?" And that sort of thing. And so I put all of the cages and all the stuff that went along with the rabbits after the rabbits went away on Craigslist, and somebody came from, I think they were from like out near Erie, Pennsylvania, and bought all of it. They had a pickup truck, and we loaded that pickup truck. So yeah, Craigslist can work good. I think Eddie the Fry Guy put something on Facebook Marketplace like a couple weeks ago, and he's had really good luck with that. But he had to weed through all these scammers, and it's like, man, if it weren't for the scammers, trying to get rid of stuff or buy stuff would actually be reasonable. And I just don't understand why scammers exist, why they just don't try to do something above board. Anyway, and yeah, eBay is a total waste of time, and they take 15%. So if I put a piece of audio gear on and I get $1,000 for it on eBay, I only put $850 in my pocket. And when you get to an item that's $100, if I'm getting $150 an hour to go out and do broadcast engineering somewhere, well, if I only put $100 and end up with $85, I've just wasted my time, and I should have probably thrown that item in the trash. But there's the whole thing for me. I can't throw stuff away because I always figure there's somebody out there that's going to be interested. Anyway, here I go again. I'm up to almost 5 minutes. K1GMM. K2XAM at 4 minutes and 59 seconds.
Okay. K1GMM, and good morning, Dave. Yeah, sorry I missed you. N2VO. And all I can say, Kevin, is be glad. This is not really, don't read into this or take this the wrong way, but and you probably know this already, but when you have a spouse, things get even more complicated, right? Or a girlfriend, whatever. I got you mentioned Sanford and Son, which just, I can't get that out of my head. That was a few days ago, I think. My basement is an absolute train wreck. And I just said to my wife the other day, I said, I'm going to get a freaking dumpster, and I don't care. I'm tempted to call Carrera like today and have a dumpster delivered, and I'm going to start cleaning this basement out. And the look on her face, dude, I said, hey, listen, we haven't even touched 80% of that crap in 15 years. What's the point? I said, it's not worth anything anymore. We might as well just dumpster it. Well, yeah, she gets pretty upset, dude. So I'm kind of stuck. I don't know what to do. I said, don't worry about your Christmas decorations, all that stuff. We got a special corner, where that goes. And, yes. we'll keep all that stuff. But man, dude, the stuff that I find out, I've got old tree stands. You know, that's one of my missions today I got to go to the dump, do a dump run, but I have a feeling it's going to be multiple dump runs because I've got a lot of metal, which I can get rid of for nothing. So, you know, I'll be grabbing stuff like that, old racks. I mean, they're rusted, dude. Nobody wants that crap. Really? So anyways, I don't want to dribble on too long. It just is so irritating to me. I have a friend that said, hey, anything you haven't touched in 6 months, throw it out. That's what he does. You ought to see his place. You can eat off of every surface, including the basement. There's nothing in his house. It's nothing but furniture, some collectibles, you know, stuff like that. It is absolutely awesome. There's nothing there except the stuff that they use on a daily basis. I'm like, wow. You know, but that's how he lives his life. That's the other extreme. Anyways, Dave, yeah. Where are you going skiing anyways? What mountain? N2VO, K1GMM.
Okay. Well, there's a little hill up north of Rome called Woods Valley. My QTH is south of Utica. It's about a 45-minute ride for us to get there. We get our season's tickets there. And my wife is an avid skier. She goes, you know, in the thick of the season now, she'll go up there maybe 3 times during the week, at least twice. And I generally go on Fridays, but today's their opening day, and she was, are you going to go? Are you going to go? And so I was, yeah, I'll go. It sounds like fun. So I got all my stuff out, got it cleaned up, and charged my batteries. I got batteries to put in my boots, and I got batteries to put in my gloves. So, excuse me. They're all charged up and ready to go. So we'll give it a whirl.
Out, man.
If the conditions aren't good, no big deal. We just come home. And
that's why I need a dumpster.
So
I can't do dump runs.
And
I mean,
yeah, selling stuff and getting rid of stuff. Well, I'm completely buried. I've got an old farmhouse here I bought in 1979. I think I moved in here.
See, I look at it a little different,
and
Paul.
pretty much been filling it up ever since. And particularly old radios, boat anchors. Like just where I'm sitting right now, I've got...
See, I look at it as a cluttered house, as a cluttered soul.
Boat anchor transmitters. I'm going to talk about anything else. I've got 2 DX100s. I've got a Viking 2 and an Apache that I've been working on. And incidentally, I got the Apache working pretty good. I got it turned down. Maybe I'll put it on next whirl around. I'm not satisfied it's just right. Everybody has been telling me it sounds fine, but I think it splatters. And well, anyway, better keep it moving here. K2XAM N2VO.
Dave, don't feel like you got to keep it moving. I mean, I can't keep my mouth shut for whatever reason, even with the timer. And good morning to Jamie, N2VJ.
Wow, Tim.
Out in Windiana.
Dumpster. Holy crap.
I just got a text message from him. He's listening. And I had mentioned to him the other day on the yellow phone that we've got 3 DX100s at the shop. And when he gets back in, which will hopefully be this week, one of his side projects is to get one of those checked out and running and tuned up on 40 meters because the Johnson Viking 500, the dial cord strings busted in it. We're never going to fix it. And it's tuned up on this frequency. It's tuned up on 80 meters. So if he can get me a working, I said, I don't even want you to go through the audio. I just want to have something to be able to get on from the shop on 40 meters with one of those DX100s. And so that's his side project this week, so we can get on. And I'll just feed audio in across the grids of those. What are they? 1625s or something like that. I'm not even going to go crazy with it. I'll just go in on the secondary of that driver transformer with a Western Electric 111C telephone company repeater coil and feed audio into it. I don't care. I'm not going to make it perfect, but I'm not going to have it sounding yellowy either, just to get on. But yeah, I had that 6-month rule at one point that if I hadn't touched it in 6 months, it had to go on eBay. But I eliminated that rule because I sold a lot of stuff that I really liked. And then 2 or 3 years later, I'm like, man, I wish I could take that out of a cardboard box or out of a plastic container, because I store stuff in plastic bins at this point, and play with that again. So I kind of eliminated that rule, and I had to go out and re-buy that same stuff on eBay at probably double what I ended up getting for it. So what I'm doing now is looking at stuff and going, yeah, I'm probably never going to do anything with that again. And there's lots of stuff here that's broadcast engineering related. And I've been, dragged down to Pennsylvania. In fact, they wanted me to come down today, and I said, well, call me on Wednesday or Thursday and let me know if you really want me to come down. And they didn't call, so I'm not going.
Yeah, Tim.
The other engineer goes, where'd this stuff come from? And the guy down there is like, I don't know. And I go, well, I just brought it down and put it in. I go, look, I built one of the radio stations with all junk that I either bought off of eBay or brought from home. At one point, when we bought this station that he recently sold, we bought like 15 years ago. It came with nothing. It came with a transmitter, a tower, and a license for both the AM and FM. There was no studio gear or any of it. I basically built the place with stuff I had laying around and or stuff I picked up off of eBay. And, it's one of those things where when I end up leaving there, I'm like, hey, I'm taking this because I gave you this, and so I'm taking that doesn't work, and probably put that on eBay, that sort of thing. Oh, guy's got no money, and but having no money, I do get paid really well, so I don't mind every once in a while throwing a compeller or something like that. What else? I'm up to 4 minutes again, so K1GMM, K2XAM here in the group.
I really, I try not to take it longer than like 2 or 3 minutes, but that's why I'm really enjoying AM, because it gives me something. 99 times out of 10, it's actually something interesting to listen to. I don't feel dumber for having participated. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? You ever get into a QSO where you leave the QSO and you're actually like 10 levels dumber than when you first jumped in, just because of what's going on in there. That's a little exaggeration, tongue in cheek, but relevant, I guess. I know we've all experienced it, where you're looking for the door saying, run away, run away. Anyways, so that, you know what that is, Kevin? That's the shoulda, woulda, coulda game. I hate that game. I hate that. And I've done it. I'd sold stuff that later on, a few years later, I'm like, man, I should have never done that. But we've all done it, right? And that's the problem. See, with the hobby thing, you got to be really careful in this hobby selling things. You may have it boxed up, but what I found is it's like an ebb and flow of a tide, where it's not on a daily basis. But I busted into some things. I'm actually thinking about doing something I haven't done in, 3 or 4 years. Maybe installing my HF Mobile, getting back into and I thought about selling the 857D. Well, that's my HF Mobile rig. Now, I do have a 7300 here, but I used to do a lot of portable operation. I thought about selling the 7300, and I'm like, dude, you better think twice, because it's a decent little radio for portable operation, very efficient, sounds great. It's got a super hot front end, which is a little too hot in my opinion, but I ain't going down that road. But that's why I pump the brakes now. I'm always pumping the brakes. I'm like, wait, stop, think about it. Dave, geez, there was something I was going to mention to you Good heavens. You are tight, dude. You are tighter than a rat's you-know-what. That thing does not splatter, and you are plowing in here. Carrier between 20 and 30 over. And I'm actually streaming this right now to my K1GMM YouTube channel. So if you want to see how tight that is, I'm running an SDR radio. It is railroad tracks. So if someone's telling you it's splattering, I can't quite figure that one out. Same with you, Kevin. You're always very tight in the spectrum. Very little spillover outside of your bandpass on either side. Go ahead, Dave, N2VO, K1GMM.
Well, guess what? I'm not running the Apache right now. I'm running the ICOM 7300. So don't get rid of your 7300. I tell you, that's probably the only, that's my favorite radio. It does everything pretty well. It really does. And it doesn't take a lot of room, and it's not an expensive radio. It's got a nice display. But I tell you what, I'm going to switch over right now over to the Apache. And you tell me, and be honest, I'm not worried. I'm looking for an excuse to move this thing out the door, to be honest with you. It's on my bench, and it weighs 106 pounds, and I'm having a hard time. Even flipping it up is a little effort. But I tell you why I'm playing with it. I've got the sideband adapter for it, and I do want to try to play around with that. Well, I'm going to switch over right now. Okay, now I'm on the scratchy Apache. And I just flipped my antenna switch and flipped it over. Now, yesterday I was using it, and it seemed like it was working fine, and then all of a sudden there was a crap out. It just stopped. I just put this together. I just got it going on Wednesday. I had it up in my attic for all of 15 years, and I brought it down and I cleaned it up, and I had quite a bit of fixing to do on it. I could list it all out, but that'd be boring. But I tell you what, I'm gonna go back to the other big guys. And K2 and 2 Pico.
Your audio sounded good at the beginning, but I'm just looking. You're 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 kilohertz wide. Steve, your opinion on that too, on the audio bandwidth. Looking at I forget what you said you had there. What's your thought on that?
Are you referring to what Dave was just on?
Yeah, on that Apache, it seemed like the audio is extremely wide. There's no bandwidth limiting.
Dave, you said honest. Be honest. I'm going to be honest. Even though the ICOM was very limited in TX bandwidth, that thing eats that Apache for lunch. As far as clarity of audio, it's very tight. It's not like, one of these Anons, which I have one of those too, running pure signal. It's not that tight, but I can tell it's an ICOM. ICOMs are about the cleanest radios on the market outside of like Sun, which what I'm on, or an Anon. And I'm surprised that thing sounds so good on AM. I could never get mine to sound that good on AM. So anyways, yeah, I was looking at it. It was blowing out average 3690 to 3721. That's conservative. And then about halfway through your transmission, it just crapped out, man. I don't know what was going on. But it was like, and it was just blowing out even more. I don't know that much about those rigs, so it was very unstable. I'll put it back to you, Kevin. It's probably what you heard and saw. Over.
Yeah, it seemed like it was going down to this K2XAM, by the way, in case Big Brother's checking in. That was K1GMM. don't know if anybody checks any of this stuff. I think I saw you down. There was a sideband group on 3695 here on the Vermont SDR, and you were with the Apache making audio. You could see, little bits and pieces all the way down there. So that's 10 kilohertz. No, there was a sideband group on 90. I think it was wide. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to tell you to move it on down the road, but depends on how much you're planning on using it. And my audio is tight from the standpoint that I'm actually using a little metal filter that came out of a LPB TIS transmitter, so the Traveler Information Station transmitters that were along the New York State Thruway, and I don't know, there's probably other places. Maybe they had them along I-91 in Vermont at one point, but I ended up with one of those. And of course, the guy sold it to me without the crystal. It was like on 1620. And I wanted to use it on just AM broadcast into a dummy load with old radios and stuff like that. And so I ended up taking that filter out, and it just floated around here for years, in the junk box, in the junk collection. And I'm like, man, that thing would be pretty good to put on ham radio. It's going to keep my audio from getting out much more than 4.5, 5 kilohertz. And I think it does a fairly good job doing that. So that's been repurposed into a audio distribution amp, and it seems to work okay. I've had no real complaints about audio. So that's one of the things that would kind of be a drag if I had ended up selling it. And yeah, the ICOM 7300, I have two of those. I have a love-hate relationship with them. The love-hate relationship is this. I had a friend of mine, the guy that was taking care of WTWW shortwave, says, oh, go buy an ICOM 7300. He, back when I wanted to get into ham radio a few years ago. He goes, you're going to love it. It's going to be great. Well, what I didn't know is the guy is heavily into sideband. Sideband is his whole life, and I wanted to do AM. So I got it and hooked it up and everything, and I'm like, man, this thing is disappointing on AM. Not as disappointing as the 7610 for the price of that, but it's disappointing nonetheless when you want to work AM. But yeah, it's the love part of it is it's a really great Swiss Army knife. You do about everything with it. I mean, Jamie's fed digital signal and done FT8 or one of those digital modes through the USB port. Just incredible little box. So, and I use it now just as a receiver primarily. All right, I'm into it for almost 3.5. So I'm trying to keep this short so we can keep it moving. K1GMM 330. It's K2XAM in the group.
Okay, Kevin, K1GMM. I'll try and keep this short because I want to get back over to Dave. You're 100% on point. I've had the 7300 since 2016. Dude, I use that for everything. And I actually I handle all my audio processing virtually. It's all done on computer using a little lightweight VST host application running a series of plugins. And it's all passed virtually to all of the rigs, including the 7300 via USB cable through the USB audio codec. And that's for sideband use. I could never get it to sound right on AM going through the USB cable. It sounded terrible. It sounded like I was talking into a beer can. But on sideband, I can't tell you how many times guys ask me. They know what I'm running. They know I'm big into SCR. These SCRs, Anon, Sun, stuff like that. I have them. And they'll say, good Lord, at a 2.9 kilohertz bandwidth, I have the audio tailored so that I have guys tell me they're listening at 4K wide, and I'm in with 4K groups, right, on sideband. And they're like, what rig are you on? Are you on the Anon? I said, no, I'm on the ICOM. And they say, holy crap, that thing actually it pushes audio down to 40 hertz to about 3.1 kilohertz via brute force. And I have a video which proves it. And they're like, man, if I close, this guy Bill, he's down in Virginia, I think. He said, if I close my eyes, I would swear you're running 4K wide on that Anon. That's how good that thing sounds. They are very capable radios, but on AM, I've heard like Dave's got a great audio on AM. I could never get mine to sound like that, so I'm curious as to how he's doing it, if he's bringing it in through a cable on the front. I just heard one the other day where a guy was using the fist mic right into the front of the radio. And I'll tell you, I could never get mine to sound like that through the USB cable. So I don't know if there's some filtering that's going on on USB only when in the AM mode. I don't know, but something's different there. I never could figure it out. I have used mine I've made more FT8 contacts. I have beat the crap out of that radio, Kevin, and it's still going. You just can't kill it. The front end leaves a bit to be desired. That's what I call a barn door. That thing's freaking horrid. So I always use like an HF Plus with SDR console as the front end to that thing, and I use basically the transceiver as the PA only. Didn't even use the front end on it almost since day one. I heard that and I was like, oh my God. I couldn't deal with it. I like quiet, you know. Anyways, go ahead. Dave, N2VO, K1GM. How the heck are you getting audio into that thing?
Okay, well, I'm back on the ICOM right now. The Apache, you know, it's just a work in progress. Like I say, it was up in my attic for 15 years. And, you know, I went through it, I changed a bunch of caps out of it, and I cleaned it up pretty good. And, well, I did a bunch of stuff to it. And changed all the power supply caps and like that. And then I put it on the air, and it worked great for a couple days. And then it started acting squirrely. So, you know,
because it sounds equal to the Anon, almost equal to the Anon through the USB cable in the back. But maybe that would fix it on AM, because AM through the USB cable sucks. I'm not sure where it is, but I'll see. Absolutely sucks. Just like what I was saying, sounds like a friggin' beer can.
I believe it's just the way it was when it came out of the box. I don't think I've done anything to it. The only thing is that the microphone that I'm using is an old ICOM microphone. I bought it in the early 90s when I was first licensed. When I was first licensed, I had a IC 725, I think it was, my first rig. Mostly what I did with it was CW, and during those years I did nothing really, probably for the first 15 years or so I was licensed. I did nothing but CW. And the mic is a IC-SM6. And so one day I just, you know, come across the mic and I hooked it up, and everybody was saying, gee, that rig sounds pretty good for what it is, you know, for a rice box. And so I just left it on there. And I really don't do anything with it. So anyway, that's the story right there. And I'll pass it back over to Kevin. K2XAM, N2VO.
All right, N2VO, K2XAM. You know who else sounds good on their ICOM 7300 is Doug. Doug always sounds pretty decent on that. And also Chris. Chris has one. And he sounds pretty good on the ICOM 7300. And he's done a lot of experimenting around with the little 9-volt battery, and I can't remember how many K the pot was, maybe a 50K pot, adjusting the ALC so you get about 10 watts output. You crank the output control all the way up and then hook the little 9-volt battery circuit for the ALC and dump it down to about 10 watts.
Tim, did you ever...
you actually can almost get positive peaks.
Did you ever try it through the USB jack? Through the
out of the
USB cable in the
7300.
back?
I tried screwing
Just
around
curious.
with it a little bit, and I don't know. I just was
So
not
you can do a
overly happy
comparison.
with
I just
it.
I
And
just don't
think
like analog lines
what Chris
in
and
any of
I
my
came
rigs.
to the
I run
conclusion
big power
of
here,
with
legal
it,
limit,
there must
and
be
I don't want any
several
RF
different
anywhere
rigs
sneaking into these
of
cables.
ICOM
That's why I just go
7300,
all
and
virtual.
maybe his
It's
just
so
ends up
clean.
working better than mine does, or some sort of thing, like that. I don't know if we tried screwing around with it, the one that I've got at the shop, at all. It was just easier, I think, for Jamie to fix the Viking 500. Oh, and stuff that I sold up at Nearfest, I brought 3 items. I brought 2 broadcast consoles and one FL2100B. And one of the broadcast consoles sold to the guy that I thought would buy it even. So that was a good thing, and I about gave it away. And then the FL2100B, while it worked, the tubes were getting soft in it, and I just wasn't going to go out and buy a set of tubes. And Eddie sold that for me, Eddie the Fry guy, because I was walking around, and the guy asked Ed, how come he's selling this thing so cheap? And he's like, he just doesn't want to bring it home. He wants it to go down the road. It's going to need tubes. He goes, the guy is like, this thing is like pristine mint. And Ed goes, yeah, it is about pristine mint, but it's going to need tubes, So I hope the guy that bought it's happy, but it was just another one of those things to me that was big and heavy. And I wasn't going to lug it around. I just wanted it to go away. I wasn't going to buy a set of tubes. I'm actually thinking about buying a solid state amp. I got to talk to Jamie about that when he gets back, of what amp to end up buying and so forth. Something that's going to be like the lifetime investment. It'll be like the last amp that I end up buying, that sort of thing. New manufacturer's warranty, the rest of it. Just pay up for it and get something that I'm going to have for a while. Anyway, there I go. I'm over 3 minutes again. 3 minutes 10. K1 GMM, K2 XAM in the group.
Okay, somebody checked in there, but I can't pull them out of there. So let me drop it quick and see if you guys can pull them in. I'll get everything cracked open, see who that was. This is K1 GMM, Steve Vermont. Go ahead and take it, and then put it over to Dave after you're done. N2VO braking station. Go ahead, K1 GMM.
Okay, this is AA10 Milton, New Hampshire. This is the IC7300 with a D104 on the front of this thing. And I don't know how it sounds, but it sounds pretty good to me when I'm recording it. This is on AM, of course. So go ahead, Dave. This is AA10.
Okay, I copied him, but I didn't catch his call, and he was pretty light, and I heard him say that he was using a 7300, and Kevin, that FL2100B, that's my favorite amp. I'm using one of them right now. I run my
AM is tough on
my
the
7300 into that.
It's very pinched.
Resting carrier probably about
You can get way more low end.
115 watts or so.
Way more low end going in
it's low
through the analog
and
inputs.
the tubes for that are an issue. I bought a set of, I've got another amp that's a heat kit, SB200 I think it is, uses the same pair of tubes, 572Bs I believe, and
very odd.
and I reconditioned that amp, maybe about 3 years ago during the winter. I went right through it and put all new caps in there, got an 8-seat ham-fed kit for it. Somebody else had a kit for it. You could rebuild it right front to back. And I bought a pair of Chinese tubes for it. And I got the tubes here. I picked one of them up. I was getting ready to put them in. I picked one of them up, and as I turned it in my hand, I noticed it was rattling. So I got on, I emailed, that place that sells all those tubes, RF something. And, gee, we're sorry, we'll send you another. So they sent another one out, and I put them in, and they work, but they're soft, you know.
Yeah, but Tim, did you ever try it on AM?
They're just
I guarantee
not very
you
good.
I can't push the bottom end
so
on AM.
I don't know
Maybe
where
it does, but I've
you-
never
I'd
heard
like
one.
to buy a pair for this
On AM?
Yaesu here
Through the
that I'm
13
using,
pin?
but I can't. I've never
I don't
come
know.
across. I
You haven't said you actually
kicked
tried it
myself
on
in the
AM.
butt. So I was at a ham fest, and AB2RA had Heathcat FL200, I think, or no,
Well, that's
I forget,
interesting.
but the
So you
smaller
tried
one,
it on
SP200
AM,
or whatever.
push the equivalent low
And,
end is what you can get on sideband.
Somebody
yes?
bought it from her, but they did not want
That's
the tubes,
amazing
and
if
she
that's
had
true.
a pair of Svetlana
That
tubes.
is a game changer right there.
572Bs that she
You need to
removed,
put something
and
on
then the
YouTube
guy
about
bought
that
the
dude with a
amp.
demonstration.
And I should have bought those tubes from her and put them in this
'Cause
rig
I don't
here,
hear
but I
anybody
didn't.
talk
And
about
so
Nobody.
who knows where they are now?
I ain't gonna
So
do it 'cause I wouldn't use that
anyhow,
radio on AM, but
let's see. I guess I was turning it over to Kevin. K2X AM N2VO.
hey, really quick, I got a question for Kevin. Hey, Kevin, really quick, you can comment on this. You mentioned a while back the 70. I've heard this multiple times. You mentioned the 7610 is a heap on AM. I'm just curious why that is, if you know why that is. K1GMM.
Right, I've never had a 7610. I've only heard them on the air, and it's all done in the software or firmware, and it's just ICOM, for whatever reason, had made it sound worse on AM than the 7300. And the thing, from what I understand, costs like 2 or 3 times as much as an ICOM 7300. But that being said, if you're a sideband guy, those things sound phenomenal. I've heard a number of people talk about this on the air. To me, in trying to understand the AM, it's almost unintelligible. That's how, and I'm sure if Tim were in here, Tim would agree, and he could probably elaborate a little bit more, but it's all done in the firmware or the software. I'm not sure what's the correct term, and there's no way around it. The ICOM 7300 we've had at the shop has broken a couple of times, and we've sent it back to the ICOM repair shop, which I think is in Michigan somewhere. And I even called the guy at one point. I said, dude, can you get in and make AM sound a little bit better? I'm not asking for 20 kilohertz bandwidth, but could you give me another couple kilohertz wide? He goes, nope, it's above my pay grade. I'm like, oh, so you don't even have the software to get in? Because I'm not a software guy at all. I can't do what you're doing with coming up with programs for setting up those flex receiver, the flex radios and the Anons and so forth. I've looked at those things and go, oh, yeah, those would be really cool, but I'm never going to figure out how to use it. Over to AA1VO, hearing you on the Vermont SDR, and gather that you've got an ICOM 7300 with a D104. So kind of a neat setup. Back on over to you, and then let's see. I guess turn it over to Steve at that point. AA1VO, good hearing you in here. K2XAM in the group.
Such better microphones out there. Silly.
Oscar. Name's Clint. I'm in Milton, New Hampshire. Yeah, this is a D104. I've got the first transistor
not as good as
in
Dave's,
the
but sounds good.
base of the amp has been taken out. I have a JFET in there. That's my trick there. And I also eliminated the 9-volt battery. I'm using the power right off the front apron of the ICOM to power the electronics that's in the D104. And this has the original element in it. It's about 40 years old. Picked it up at Nearfest about 20 years ago. It works pretty good. I have this on several different rigs, and I've had good luck with it. And it seems to be pretty good on the ICOM 7300. So I'll turn it over to whoever. I got Steve texting. Steve, I've seen your YouTube videos a few times. Very good, very well done. And Nice. I always wanted to talk to you, so here you are. This is AA1ZO. Go ahead.
Okay, AA1ZO, K1ZO, I think it is, K1GMM. Oh, well, good. I hope you found something useful, entertaining, or hopefully it didn't do too much permanent emotional or mental damage. So I always say that because I know it puts people into duress sometimes. So, K1GMM. Kevin, yeah, that's interesting. Now I have a guy in the chat. I'm going to just say this. His name's Tim, and he had a 7300, and he brought the audio in through the 13-pin DIN, the 13-pin on the back of the radio. I've never done that before. And he said that it uncorks that 7300 spectrally. This is the issue I found with the 7300. You can't get the bottom end on AM that you can get on sideband. I don't know why. You'd think you would be able to, but I can't. You can't get it through the USB cable. You can't get it through the connector on the front of the radio. He brought his audio through the 13-pin on the back, and yes, all of a sudden it uncorks. So you can get, it's not broadcast quality, as far as the audio spectrum goes, but it completely changes the game. You can get a lot more bottom end instead of it sounding, all 7300s, you can only do so much with the bottom end stock with the on AM. That's just the way they are. It's the way it is. Doesn't make any sense because, like I said, you can push 40 hertz to 3.1 kilohertz on sideband with that thing. But I never been able to do it on AM. Well, it sounds like if you came in that 13-pin plug with the audio in the back of the radio, that changes the game. So I've never heard anybody say that before. There was something else. Kevin, I don't know if you've ever heard of Asimod. The guy's out of Florida. Check that out. Type in ICOM 7300 Asimod, ASYMOD. That guy mods the 7300 and many other radios for AM. Check that out. And it's variable. I believe it's variable bandwidth and full spectrum audio with, I think, 200% modulation. I know, but that 7300, it's not cheap. I think it's just under $1,000, but it turns that radio into an absolute monster on AM. You got to check that out. That's the 7300. Okay, where's it going? Dave, I think, N2VO, K1GMM.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I'll check that out. And I'm not inclined to mess with it, though, because I don't want to mess it up. That's why. And So anyway, jeepers, I just had something I wanted to say, and now I forgot it. I think I'm going to clear out, though, guys. I got to go up and start getting my stuff together. Like I said, we're going skiing. I know what I wanted to say, AA1VO. My call is N2VO. But my old call was AA2UO, Uniform Oscar, AA2UO. And years ago, when they started the vanity call sign program there, I worked a lot of CW, and I wanted a snappier call on CW, so that's when I got the N2VO. And and Jamie there is N2VJ, which is actually just one bit away from my call. That's how close our calls are. Or is it well, I'd have to think about that. It's a dash away, I guess. But anyway, I gotta go, guys. I'll see you. Oh, Kevin, I'll see you tonight. I'll start listening around 7 or so on 160. So have a good day. K2XAM, this is N2VO, and I'll be clear.
Your style, everything.
Dave. Great hearing you in here on the Big
No
05
one size
this
fits
morning.
all
And
microphones.
yeah, be safe out there on the slopes and getting there. It just started snowing here. Hopefully this isn't going to be an all-day snow here in Syracuse. But hey, at least we didn't get the 5 feet that they got up on the Tug Hill. And Clint's call is AA1 Zulu Oscar. AA1ZO. I thought it was VO, like you, but yeah, he cleared that up. Clint, up in, I think, New Hampshire, I think he said. Real cool. Steve, yeah, so Jamie and I have tried the backdoor input that DIN connector, and we were still not thrilled. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I think Chris and I kind of came to the realization that there's probably a bunch of these different revs of the ICOM 7300. And, I think the later ones, they may have tightened everything up, in them to make make the audio what it is. So I don't really know. I haven't wanted to go and buy another used ICOM 7300, and I've looked at that modification. So the ASIMod for the ICOM 7300, and I just looked it up again, and yeah, sure enough, is the same site that I looked at. I think Phil had put me onto that. At one point, I heard him and Clark talking, or somebody had mentioned something, and I had emailed Phil. I think he was the one that put me onto that, and I looked at this a year ago, and I'm like, man, I don't really want to take my ICOM 7300 apart and have him basically plate modulate the RF is what you're basically doing. You're basically building it into a plate modulated AM transmitter, all solid state, of course, but that's basically what it comes down to that you're doing here, inserting the RF into the output transistor, much like you would have done on a vintage broadcast AM transmitter, is how I correlated in my head. So I didn't really want to do that. It would then also kind of render the ICOM 7300 into a less portable situation, I think, because you'd have an outboard box that you'd wind up carrying around with it to do AM. So I just have stuck with using the collection of DIY rigs here. All right, there I am, up to about 3 minutes again. Over to Clint, AA1ZO, K2XAM in the group.
All right, K2XAM in the group. This is AA1ZO. Okay, Steve. And the fellows out there, I'm on the rear, DIN connector in the back. I got a DI box with a Behringer VX2000 black.
Yeah, see, that doesn't
I've
sound
got
any different
a little
to
bit
me.
of EQ going on here, and I got about a 6
I agree
dB
with Kevin. I
compression.
just don't see how.
And I'm using
I
the
think
rear
it's a
connector that you
software
mentioned.
issue with the something going on with
go back
AM.
and forth between the front and the back.
Doesn't sound
And I'm
any
using
different
a
than
SE
it would if you brought it
Dynacaster
in through the
microphone.
USB
That's
or the
got a
front
cloud
connector.
lifter built into it. So I don't know what this thing sounds like compared to the D104, but I think this sounds maybe a tiny bit better. I don't know.
I don't know.
So go ahead, Steve, pick it up.
I
AA1ZO.
never tried it. Okay, sorry about that, Clint. A1ZO, thanks for clearing that up, Kevin. K1GMM. And say 7-3 to Dave. Enjoy your skiing. I think you were going to sign out, and I'll keep it short and put it over to you next. That's, I was so tempted, Kevin, to pull the trigger on that ASIMod stuff, but I felt the same way you did. I just don't, because you're really cannibalizing the radio. That's the first thing, right? And then the second thing is, yes, it's not portable. You got external peripheral gear to make all that stuff work. And is it, you're talking a lot of money. I mean, by the time you're done, if you were to buy a new 7300 and then you were going to mod that thing, you're talking well over $2,000 for that radio. Is that worth over $2,000? Hell no. No, it's not. If you wanted to do this, That technically is an SDR radio, even though I don't consider it an SDR. An SDR radio, a true SDR has what's called an AGCT with variable slope and decay, an AGC threshold, which is really what makes SDRs very unique and what makes them very quiet and what makes them work. Brings them into a true SDR realm. So it's a glorified superhead, in my opinion. It's still running an RF gain. So, it's one of those things where for $2,400, you can get a banging radio for AM. And I mean a real banger for $2,400. Shoot, you can buy used SDRs. You can get this thing I'm running for around $1,400, $1,500, and it'll do 12K wide all day long, 16K wide if you want. Same with an Anon. You can pick up an Anon for $1,800, but yeah, it's software driven. But they're Cracker Jacks. They work well, but they are very high tech. They are certainly not our father's radios. You got to be somewhat software proficient. So I get what you said, Kevin. Really quick, I'll end it with this. I remember I was listening to a conversation, and this old timer, he's been in the hobby like 50 years or 60 years. He bought an Anon, right? An Apache Labs Anon. I can't remember, maybe a 7000. And he sold it almost immediately after. And they're like, what'd you sell it for? He said, because I couldn't take it. It was too quiet. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's too quiet. He said, I'm used to hearing all the static and crashing and banging on the band. Couldn't hear any of that. You can crush that thing to the point where it's so quiet, it's deafeningly quiet. It unnerved him, and he couldn't deal with it. I thought that was hilarious, but it makes sense. If that's what you're used to hearing, you got to be really careful when you jump into some of this technology, because it's not traditional. It's just not the way what we're used to hearing, Go ahead, Dave, N2VO. Hopefully you're still there. Have a great time and ski hard and safe. K1GMM. Nope, he cleared. I guess back over to you, right, Kevin?
I just wanted to make sure, yeah. So, Clint, I don't know if band conditions drastically changed, but Steve, I'll get your opinion on this too, because the SDR I'm listening to is up in Vermont, probably only, 30 miles, 15 miles, something like that from your QTH. But it seemed like Clint was easier to hear with the D104 that particular time, and I don't know if it's just that he needed more drive, or if you can even give.
What's up, Elmer?
That's the thing that we ended up running into. I think I used a 600 ohm to 600 ohm isolation transformer when we tried the backdoor input. I have it built up. It's actually here in a little box. I could press it into service probably fairly quickly if the little DIN thing is there. I don't see the DIN thing on the table here. That was just wired up with an RCA jack so that it'd be easy to press into service. But I think the thing was there was a fine line between no audio and overdriving the thing. But just real quick, what was your thought on Steve on Clint's audio, D104 versus backdoor input?
I'm sorry, Kevin. I really wasn't paying attention that closely because he's not that strong in here. And yes, that K1VL machine is about 15 air miles for me, but you got to understand that thing is on the south-facing, I believe it's south-facing part of Shrewsbury Peak, which is Killington. That's over 4,000 feet. That thing is one of the best SDRs in the world, web SDRs, Kiwis. It's a monster, that thing, as far as receive goes. So if I was listening on that, I could probably make a better judgment call. Over.
Yeah, no, just trying to get thoughts, that's all. And yeah, he's got an incredible web SDR. set up, and I mentioned this the other day on SDRs. There are some web SDRs, and I think you mentioned some of them weren't even on frequency. Was it you or someone? Somebody had mentioned that. But this one is a good one. The only thing that's annoying about it is there's a electric fence that the thing ends up picking up. You can hear that pop every once in a while. But other than that, I mean, if you're putting on enough RF, you can kind of overcome that most of the time. But yeah, pretty incredible unit. The other decent one is the K3FEF. It's down there in the New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey triangle. I think he's in Milford, but I can't remember if it's Milford, New Jersey, or Milford, PA. I think that's another good one. But where was I going with this? I've lost track of whatever brain cell I had left, which isn't much anyway. So 7-3 to Dave. I'm pretty sure Dave is probably headed for the ski slope, and I'll catch up with him hopefully tonight on 160 about 7 o'clock. So back over to Clint. AA1ZO K2XAM in the group.
Clint here, Milton, New Hampshire. Yeah, Steve, the other fellow there. I'm using the rear connector now. The D104 has been put away, and I am talking on the 7300 with the rear connector. I have a foot pedal that's actuating the transmitter through that same connector. It comes with the radio when you buy it. You might remember that. And I hooked all that thing up to my to a DI box, which is a transformer box, and that goes into a Behringer VX3000 rack. I'm using about 6 dB of compression and a little bit of EQ on either side, and I've got a SC Sciencecaster microphone which has a lifter built into it because it's a dynamic mic. And that's my trick here. So I don't know if you can hear me okay, and if you can see a difference between a D104, which is hard to beat, and this thing here. The D104, of course, is being fed through the front. This whole rig is in the back. So there you go. AA1ZO.
Yeah, K1GMM. No, all copied there, Clint. I'd have to hear them back to back because there's too much time between the last time you were on the D104. I think you said coming into the front. That thing sounded pretty freaking good. It did. It sounded good. And I know what you're saying, Kevin. The 7300 is tough because that's what I found. You're either overmodulated, you're pushing too hard, or there's just not enough audio there. The carrier's there. I watch it. Of course, I got a Spectrum with Spectrum analyzers running, and I watch them, and that's the situation I had. And who was it? Was it George? I got to ask you this. Was it George? Interesting. His wasn't George on the 7300 just a few days ago or something? Boy, that thing was freaking crackerjack, man. But he was running, didn't he have he built something to correct the negative peaks, didn't he? Maybe you can, or maybe it was Chris, but boy, that fixed it. Whatever he did, that thing cooked along really good. K2XAM, K1GMM.
I'm not sure who it was. I know Chris and I spent a lot of time, probably a year and a half ago, messing around with the ICOM 7300. I had sent him a 15 or 20 turn little trimmer pot. And I think he had a 9-volt battery clip and an RCA plug, and we were experimenting around. And he found basically if you for the ALC input, and I don't remember if he was trying an amp with this or not. It's just been too long ago. I'm missing some of the details at this point. But you wind the output, and Doug, I think, was also working with that kind of at the same time. It was Doug's idea that he found somewhere on the internet years ago, with kind of tricking the ALC in the ICOM. Not just the ICOM 7300, but I guess you can do it on a lot of the different rice boxes. And so what I ended up finding was on the ICOM 7300, you put it in AM mode, you wind the RF output up to 100%, which gives you approximately 25 watts, and then you put that little 9-volt battery circuit in, and then back it down to 10 to 12 watts, and you can just about get positive peaks out of the unit, but it doesn't improve necessarily the audio quality at all, and that's where having the FL2100B sort of came into play with me as well, because then you could actually put out somewhat of a carrier to 10 watts. You might be able to hear me, but probably Clint's not going to be able to hear me, that sort of thing. So it was fun to play with, but again, Jamie and I had messed around with the backdoor input, and all of us have different voices too. So Jamie could get away with it because he doesn't have a lot of low end of his, to his voice. And I, in my case, unfortunately do. Not unfortunately, I mean, I take it as being, it is what it is. And so I just don't hear that with the 7300. I'll tell you what, if you're going to be in here tomorrow, we can get in as long as I wake up early enough. We can get in earlier and horse around if you really want to. I don't really want to. It doesn't matter to me. We can do that, but I'm just as content here working with the DIY rig. One thing I'd be even more interested in doing at some point is firing up this Viking 2, which I don't think I've had on the air in 2 years, and that may end up having a crap out after having not been run for so long. Anyway, back over to Clint, AA1ZO, K2XAM in the group.
Okay, K2XAM in the group. This is AA1ZO. Let me tell you something about these 7300s. I've had mine going on 2 years, and I did a couple of mods that were on the internet that did not work out. And I would recommend not doing that. The tuner mod, for one thing, put a 100,000 ohm resistor in there and try to find a tiny one if you can. And that makes the tuner go beyond 3 to 1. And, well, that tuner blew out on this radio about 2 months later.
That's what you get for modding it.
I actually fixed it under warranty. I couldn't believe it.
That's why I don't touch mine.
I was fully prepared to write them a check because I had opened up the radio. But you didn't do that. I think you replaced the board in there. And there's another mod in there, too, for single sideband, getting more power on your meter by putting a capacitor in there. Don't do that. That's crazy. To do that would mean that you're not considering the duty cycle of the sideband transmitter, which is about 0.5 seconds. So don't be messing with that. There's another thing you can do where you put a RCA plug in the back of the remote jack and go in and mess with the menus in there. Don't do that either. I've done all that stuff. I'm a technician. I've been doing this since I was 11 years old. I'm 73. I just retired last week, by the way. Don't do any of those things. So I put the radio all the way back the way it was at factory, and it works just fine. Leave it alone. You want to do any of that other stuff, do it on the outside with the 9-volt battery thing. That might work pretty good. You could try that. Keep the covers on it. Everything in there is really, really tiny. I mean, really tiny. So if you think you stuff without some really good equipment and some good eyeballs, I'm 73 now. I've had cataract surgery, so Clint Eastwood said in one of his movies, Magnum Force, I think, man must know his limitations. So I'm out of business as far as fixing radios anymore. I used to do it for years, but I'm not doing much with these new stuff. It's just too small. He fixed it up. K1 and The K1GMM. This is AA10, guys.
K1GMM. I live by that rule, Clint. These modern radios, well, the 7300, like I said, I have beat the utter crap. I don't know how many tens of thousands of hours I've got on that thing since 2016. I ran it more often than not barefoot, just on the exciter only, and I wasn't nice to it. I wasn't, but I don't mess with it. You know what I mean? I don't modify it or nothing. I think if you just, I don't know. You know, I always say mileage may vary. I never really messed with that radio. The only thing I did do was I put the RX 7300 mod, which isn't available anymore. It's cheap. It basically goes into the RF deck at the interrupt point. It provides 2 RCAs. It's just a jumper setup. You take out the tuner, Molex, jack on the back, lay it across the board. Takes longer to get the friggin' cover off than to put that in. And that gives me an IF out, an interrupted IF out under transmit, so I can feed a decent dongle and run SDR console as the front end, which that's the only thing I ever did to that radio, and I've been running it like that since like 2 weeks after I got it in 2016. Never had an issue with that radio, but I don't mess with that radio. And Kevin, no, dude, don't worry about that. I have no desire to play AM with a 7300 because of what I have here. The 7300 has its niche in my world. It's a phenomenal radio for specific things. And I use it as a tool. It's kind of like you said, Swiss Army knife. That's what it is. But it has a lot of good strengths. AM is not one of them. I'm sorry, but it's just not. And I'm not bashing the radio, but no, I have no desire to play that game tomorrow. Yeah, light up that freaking, what do you say, Valiant or which one? Heck yeah. Freaking fire that sucker up. Listen, I got to run upstairs for a little bit. If you guys are still around when I get back, I got to go take care of business, if you know what I'm saying. K2XAM, K1GMM.
All right, K1GMM, K2XAM. Yeah, I'm with you on kind of getting out of here at this point. Clint, unfortunately, I think there's enough daylight around that I'm having a hard time hearing you even up on Vermont on the last one. Hopefully you're still able to hear me. I still see myself in Vermont. Steve, that's good news because I don't really want to mess around with the ICOM 7300. I'm with you on that. You know, I have no huge burning desire to do AM. The one mod that I did do on both 7300s is there's a diode you take out that allows you to get on 60 meters, because 60 meters isn't programmed in, because I like getting in with the moose and squirrel guys every once in a while, which is noon today. I don't know if I'll make it in today. Noon today on channel 3 of 60 meters. They start right up at noon. Usually there's some guys on a little bit before going, hey, is it working today? Is the band going to work? You know, that sort of thing. And you'll banter back and forth a little bit, but the net starts straight up at noon on channel 3, 60 meters, and I like getting into that net and have a lot of fun, you know, with those guys. It's a quick net. There's probably, on average, only between 5 and 10 guys that end up showing up on it, rather than like the AM carrier net or the Lonely Guys net, where, you know, you could wait an hour for your turn. Not going to happen on the moose and squirrel net. So that was a little diode that you take out, and yeah, it's surface moose mount. And squirrel net. And where I work, we have the special soldering iron to unsolder. The little tweezers is what it amounts to unsolder surface mount stuff, and it's not fun to work on. And I have a hard time seeing. Jamie has a hard time seeing, but we have worked on surface mount stuff when forced to. Anyway, I think I'm going to sign on this one. I'm going to listen out, so I'll turn it back over to you, Clint. Clinton, give you a little background. We're usually here most mornings, beginning around 7 o'clock. Sometimes a little earlier, but usually by 7 o'clock, we're in here if you want to join in with, there's usually others during the week that don't get in with us too often on Saturdays, Sundays, because they're involved with the Lonely Guys net and or the AM carrier net. So I'll send it back over to you. AA1ZO K2XAM signing.
Okay, K2XAM, this is AA1ZO. All right, very good. 7-3s, good talking to you. I'm retired now. I retired last day before Thanksgiving, so we'll see how it goes. I've been hanging out for last week and a half or so. My wife's got the honey-do list going already, but not too heavy. If it gets to be too heavy, I'll let her know. Yeah, this is the back apron of the radio. I'm talking to the back with a DI box. You know what that is, right? A little transformer in there, and I got a VX2000 box, a rack with a dynamic mic. 7-3s, we'll talk to you. Thanks for letting me get in here, and I'll try to get in here more often. I think the last time I was in here was 3 or 4 years ago in Brent. Remember Brent? He died, but he was in here a lot, and he used to attract a lot of guys, and he had the tractor, the John Deere 440, I think it was, a 430. He would bring to Deerfield once in a while, so that was pretty good. He died of cancer, I think. 7-3s, AA1ZO is signing up.
All right, Clint. Yeah, I like the way that sounds when you were strong. You were peaking about 10 over in here. You first came in. It sounded good. So, yeah, run with it, man. Yeah, don't be a stranger. Jump in, like Kevin said. Probably earlier is better because I noticed the QSB, yeah, everything's going tight now. It's getting pissy. But you're close enough. You're still in here. You're still easily copyable, kind of floating between 9 and 10 over. That's 9 and 10. Plus 10. 7-3, Kevin. We will catch you later. And, yeah, interesting conversation this morning. Anyways, have a good day. I'm going to put it in park here and head upstairs and do it. Wow, it's almost 8 o'clock. See ya, K1GMM.
All right, 7-3, and congratulations on the retirement there, Clint. Well deserved after many, many years. Absolutely, yeah. And gosh, you know, the sad part about Brent is I had just met him on the radio, and then luckily in person just a little bit before he ended up passing away. He had Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and it was just really sad. But I got to know him.
Okay, you guys, I'm going to shut down. I'll be back later. I'm going to be playing radio off and on all weekend, so we'll see what kind of trouble we can get into. I'd like to work some AM, 10-meter AM, 15-meter AM, maybe some sideband. I was going to do it, but boy, the bands they just sucked up here. My antennas suck. No, I don't have any good antennas. They're all crap. So I do the best I can. I don't care. I ain't putting the other big guns back up. Done with that crap. So I'll take what I can get. See y'all later.